and welcome everyone. My name is Marianne Maldonado, and I'm the CEO of the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston. It's our pleasure to have you with us this afternoon. I'm so very excited for today's program, and I know that you will be too. Our guest today is Bhakti Salunkhe. She is the Managing Director of the Purinic Foundation. I have so looked forward to learning more about this foundation. They have been involved with the World Affairs Council past years, and this is an organization that was founded about 20 years ago. The Purinic Foundation is a nonprofit organization and not only offers volunteer and study abroad opportunities to programs in India, but it also operates this amazing school, which we're going to hear more about. The International Learning Center. This is a school in Pune, India, which is a no-cost learning center serving students K through 12 and has a full suite of academic instruction. It also provides living quarters, meals, uniforms, and enrichment training in mindfulness, critical thinking, and leadership. Again, all at no cost. How amazing is that? One of the most unique features, which I'm so excited to hear from you, Bhakti, is about this 27-acre school that is fully sustained by solar, biogas, and water recycling systems to protect nature and to preserve nature. So, Bhakti, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for having me here today and the World Affairs Council for doing such a great job in the Houston community and worldwide. Really love all your programs. They're very engaging. So thank you again. I'm going to start off with talking about the founders because they are really the core and the seed of, how this all began. So my grandmother, Rekha Peronic, grew up in India, married my grandfather, and moved to the US without knowing a word of English. She dedicated her life to helping my grandfather. At work, he had come up with a cutting-edge technology that could save drilling producers tons of money, but no one was listening to him or gave him a chance. So she supported him in starting and growing his own manufacturing business called WOM, Worldwide Oilfield Machine, which now supports the foundation. She was the operations side of the business, self-taught, managed accounts, loans for businesses, logistics, HR. She did it all, and she learned English while watching Sesame Street. So 20 years later, and a mom of 3, she realized that she had poured so much into others that she had not invested enough to pouring into her greatest passions, which was in India and starting her own school for the underserved community. So she went back to Pune, trekked the mountains and the forest for a week, camping day and night, something I love to do. I think I get it from her. And reflecting and meditating, she came to a place that she found 27 acres of land where she said, that's where I want to build my school. So she saw this beautiful area and, she said, this is the place for my kids. And I want to support kids coming from the most challenging backgrounds, born into the least amount of resources, and to receive a private grade education that encompasses this holistic perspective, as well as, training in leadership, arts, having an orchestra, sports teams. I mean, you name it, they have it there. The Puranik Foundation was born later with the school now called Vision International Learning Center. And 3 generations later, Marianne, the legacy carries on. We invest over $1 million a year to maintain the property, which features rainwater retention, biomass, solar, agriculture, and over 100 kids attend this residential school my grandmother founded, Vision International Learning Center. And she actually lives at the campus, as well as is constantly developing curriculum for her kids and works with the teachers intensely. My mother is the executive director overseeing vision and strategy, and I am the managing director that focuses on developing partnerships and global programs And we invite high school students and educators to visit our school for life-changing experiences. So together, our mission is to equip the next generation to have a holistic perspective, one that really considers the self, the community, and the environment in everything that we do.
Well, I know we have many students, teachers, and our members watching, and I was really curious. You graduated, interestingly, with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in advertising and service design. And in growing up, you watched your entrepreneurial parents and grandparents start businesses, but also have a deep-seated commitment to serving their community, whether it be in underserved areas or just serving their communities, and committing themselves to make sure that they met the needs within their community. Tell us about this example, how it impacts your work at the foundation, and then how your interesting career choice, maybe through your academic years, works well with the work that you're doing now.
For sure. Thank you so much for your kind words. And yes, it's definitely been amazing to see the work that my grandparents and my parents continue to do today. My grandparents have always been a source of inspiration to me. Starting from humble beginnings, they built an empire and they are committed to giving back. So my values of hard work and humility come from their example. Observing how they balanced passion, purpose, and business ethics has really taught me to do all things, and that all things are possible. It's hard to balance all that, but they did it, so can I. I look at the Puranik Foundation like a startup business and apply my degree and knowledge with creativity and design thinking methodologies in all our programs and services. So we're constantly improving from the feedback that we get to make things better every year. And I know the power of planting a seed to be better, to do better. My grandparents have started a legacy that needs generations to fulfill long after me too. So I carry that torch and I will pass it forward.
So I know we're going to talk about the school opportunities for our members, our students, our teachers to engage and get more information later on in the program. But I wanted to kind of talk about the foundational differences between what we see in the educational system here in the US versus maybe in India. And many of us think of India in some dynamic different ways, whether it's from the poorest of poor to some of the richest of rich. So maybe you can talk about the differences in the educational system.
The major difference between the educational systems here in the US versus India is the level of access. So think about it this way. This is something not a lot of people know, but India is a country comprised of 1 billion people. But only 30%, which is 300 million people, live in cities that have metropolitan schools. By the way, 300 million is the population of the entire United States. So you can just imagine the stark difference in population. So imagine that 70% of the population in India lives in rural areas, which is like villages and farms and agricultural areas that really do not have very good access. They don't have public transportation for schools, or for the purpose of analogy, like clusters of schools and neighborhoods like we're used to in the US. So you see, there's a huge divide in terms of, the population and those who are educated to those who just, don't even know how to read and write and are illiterate. I grew up in India, so I've seen this firsthand and experienced the differences in education. For better access to opportunities, you have to pay a lot, and it's expensive to put your kids through school. And usually, private schools are where kids in urban areas go to. So at least in the US, we have public school systems that provide free education and transportation and meals and things like that. But in India, you have to walk miles, just to get to school. And most kids only complete their education up till the 8th grade. So for low-income families, parents really prefer that their children help them at work instead of wasting their time at school. I mean, they don't see the long-term benefits of education and have an immediate need that they need to fulfill, like food, shelter, and water. I mean, necessities, you know? So this is why we created our school, Vision International Learning Center, and the fact that it's residential. We try to remove all the barriers from students wanting to have an education. They want to learn, they're dedicated, and they're hungry for a better life.
So I assume that there are students, that every student is taught English in school?
Yes, yes. English is a global language, but it is not taught in public schools in India. So we take pride in the fact that we teach English to our kids, and especially during the exchange programs that we'll get into a little bit later on, when kids from the US go to India, they actually speak in English with each other and practice, and our kids are at our school now have American accents. It's really funny to see. But you know that all the math and science that is taught can have brilliant ideas. Kids can know so much information, but if they're not able to communicate and connect with a larger audience, you know, where does that leave them? So English is definitely an important aspect of our school.
So the Learning Center has a uniqueness. It's off the grid. I am sure that because you're utilizing some really innovative technologies, and that these students have an opportunity to holistically learn, that you have some amazing stories of success of those who've graduated the Vision International Learning Center. Maybe you could tell a few of those.
Sure, I'm happy to. It's really incredible to watch their journeys of transformation. One of the students that I personally know, her name is Lakshmi, and she was the first to graduate, first to start and graduate. She was one of the first batch students. She started at the age of 12, originally from South India. Her parents worked at the foundation campus while both her and her sister attended our school, Vision International. Lakshmi graduated with flying colors and made our school super proud. And then the following summer, she visits her home and then returns to our campus with the sudden news of her marriage. As happy as we were for her, there was like part of us were like, oh no, you know, we're losing our, you know, prime student, you know, what happens next and things like that. We hope that she would continue college, and you know, we're a little bit disheartened by the news. However, she returns to us the following summer, where she comes to visit the school, and you know, she's of course welcomed with hugs and laughter and lots of love. But she approaches my grandmother, and she says, we call my grandmother Mamaji at the school campus, lovingly. And she says, Mamaji, do you think you could donate some books to me? And, you know, my grandmother says, sure, but for what kind? You know, what's the purpose? And Lakshmi says, well, I know a few kids in the village and they love listening to stories, just like I did, you know, when you would teach us under the tree through stories. I would love to do the same thing in my village. And so, you know, that just goes to show that my grandmother felt so proud of her and the impact that Lakshmi was about to create in her own village, in her own community, and the difference that she would make in the world. So of course we did donate books, and Lakshmi started her school in her village and continues to carry on that legacy.
That's really amazing when you see it carry on like that. I love that story. And we all think in the U.S., or I know I do, that India produces large numbers of very, very well-educated professionals in medicine and engineering and IT, so many areas. Your school focuses on mindfulness. And how is the Learning Center equipping these students, not only professionally, but in a more thoughtful way?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great question, actually. And mission of ours, that's happening at this very moment, kind of starts with technology. So of course we have this holistic method of education, but I will share a certain predicament that we have been in currently because of the pandemic. And schools in India have been now closed for about 5 months due to the pandemic. And, learning is already a luxury, and online learning is a further stretch where students don't have access to technology, or even basic internet. So kids have been receiving instruction via WhatsApp and Zoom, where half the class goes by just in, getting through technical difficulties. So in November of last year, I read this article by the NGO called Save the Children. And they released a survey explaining that 62% of Indian households have discontinued their education since the pandemic. And that's a big deal. And so VILC, which I call Vision International Learning Center, has almost everything, right? In terms of leadership, arts, music, sustainability. We cover everything in terms of giving our students a holistic perspective. But the one thing that's lacking is technology. And so that's something that we're working on to leverage digital devices to teach and prepare our students to further their careers, as well as connect them back to students worldwide. I mean, if you have the internet and you have access to unlimited resources on a click, how cool is that? So our students are passionate and they have huge dreams, and they don't have the right resources. And this is just our school. This is a problem all over India. So we recently launched a campaign during the holidays called Devices for Dreams to fundraise $250 per student to provide 100 students with tablets, SIM card, screen protectors, and keyboard cases. So if you choose, there's an opportunity to donate on our website.
Thank you for that. And I want to remind our audience, there's an opportunity to ask Bhakti questions, as well as maybe get more information about the Devices for Dreams. So tell me more about the holistic approach you take and what learning goes on with these students, and what are some of the outcomes?
For sure. We have a holistic approach where we're not just teaching subjects and really ingraining like life skills that help the entire child development, and then help our kids reach their highest potential. So a day in the life of a student, right? They start with morning yoga and mindfulness practices every morning. Then they continue with their chores, tidying up around the campus. They have music lessons. We have an orchestra. I called it a band once, and they're like, it's not a band, it's an orchestra. We have with all kinds of instruments, from Indian classical singing, and tablas and tanpuras, to drums and the guitar and keyboards. It's super fun. And along with that, we have a sports team with, cricket and basketball, and we have a whole volleyball team. I mean, these kids, they are having fun at school. I mean,
remind me how many students you have in your school currently?
We have about 110 students on campus, and we continue to recruit some more. Of course, right now, because of the pandemic, not everybody is on campus, and we're working our way back into resuming school, but that's where we're at right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're teaching our kids all this, and on top of that, how to reduce their carbon footprint. So how do they interact with alternative energy systems on campus, which I know you're super interested in knowing about. And so really, considering their self and their community and environment and everything that they do.
You touched on that. I'm going to veer out a quick second. Do you work with any major energy producers in India? Are they involved with your school?
No, we primarily work with our parent company, which is Worldwide Oilfield Machine. And so we do have some programs where our people that work at the company do come and mentor some of our students, and they work with alternative energy technologies on campus and how to kind of progress that technology.
Great, good. So I understand high school and college students, professors, as well as teachers from across the globe had the opportunity to visit the International Learning Center to participate in a global service leadership program. Tell us a little bit about this program. How can people get involved and do some volunteer work, mentor, be a part?
Yeah, come visit us in India. So one of our global service leadership programs is called Impact India, where high school students from the US travel to Vision International Learning Center campus in Pune, India, and live on campus for 10 days. So it's a complete immersion. They learn about alternative energy on our campus. They learn about mindfulness. And the best part is they get to meet our students and really, interact with them. It's all about peer-to-peer learning, where they're speaking with them in English. They're learning how to salsa or, learn hip hop lyrics. And it's a full cultural exchange. But along with all the fun stuff, they're also led by a life coach to help them really, self-reflect and discover a little bit more about themselves through the service and leadership programs that we have on campus. So participants are really exposed to all sorts of things, from culture to festivals, new foods, and really just an open-minded way of thinking. And of course, they do get to participate on, learning about sustainability on campus, and they focus on thriving in limited resources. Also focusing on curating curiosity, asking questions, learning, and it continues.
So I have a question from the audience, and then I'm going to go back to you and ask you a question kind of centered around that. The question is, what would you say is the main long-term goal? What is the purpose of the Learning Center?
For sure. Of course, having students reaching their full potential. Really, the long-term vision for our school is to be a model for sustainable development, something that can be replicated in other locations around the world that have limited resources, and really learn how to thrive through limited resources, and that's possible.
And do most of the students apply this knowledge after they graduate? Do they stay in India? Is it designed for them to go abroad, or designed for them to go to college?
Of course, a lot of our students do continue pursuing paths that maybe their parents already are doing, like farming or tech work or things like that. And education still gives them an opportunity. And a lot of our students, we actually help fund their college programs, where they do go to college and start their own businesses and such, along with a program that we are in the works of doing when this global pandemic ends, is to bring some of our students to really have an exchange program in Houston, where they will go to school here for a year, and really have that entire cultural exchange happening from India and the US.
You talked earlier about self-discovery, and I found that really interesting. What do you think you've discovered in your journey as being the managing director of the Purinic Foundation?
That is a really good question. In terms of self-discovery, I think we're always growing and we're always learning. And, as a managing director, I have a lot of great inspiration around me. But there's always, they always say, like, their mistakes were made and you learn from them, but always make your own. I am a firm believer of learning from your own mistakes, and nobody's perfect. And I think that's the fun part, where you kind of learn as you grow, and you keep discovering new things.
And you grow as you learn.
You grow as you learn.
So you recently worked with HISD. For those who are tuning in from outside the area, it's the Houston Independent School District, to create its first global issues summit. And this engages youth to discuss United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. Tell us a little bit about that.
HISD is such a diverse and unique school district. We really love working with them, and really privileged to have this ongoing partnership. The Global Issues Summit was an initiative led by students, actually, and where they came together and, we helped them, of course, start a student panel where they would discuss sustainable development goals outlined by the United Nations, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, where they really, have a conversation about how they can make a difference locally. So be on a lookout. There is actually going to be a Global Issues Summit happening in May this year.
And you recently you were recognized for work co-founding the HISD Abroad for under-resourced high school students in Houston to study abroad. And I know we have a question from the audience from Vidya. How can students in the US participate in this program? So study abroad, maybe both ways. Maybe you can answer both of those questions.
For sure. So I guess the first part is, of course, we do have applications. We are not traveling this year. We will be resuming travel 2022, next year, spring break. So our applications happen online through our websites, and it's mostly through a rolling basis. So first come, first serve. We really believe in providing equity and leveling the playing field so that students from all kinds of backgrounds and cultures get an opportunity to travel and collaborate and learn from each other and experience a whole new country together. So our HISD Abroad initiative really provides $50,000 in scholarships for underserved students in the Houston community. So they have the opportunity to study abroad and attend our global service leaderships programs. So we work with underserved kids in India, and we work with them here too. Really, we want to make sure that opportunities to communicate and travel and explore are really available to everybody.
So I have a question here. How might the Puranik Foundation expand its impact and engage more volunteers? I guess that's also Houston, maybe volunteers there. Is it a volunteer school, or I assume you pay your instructors?
Yes, so we actually have educators can volunteer to travel with our students and chaperone during the trip. But if there's anybody else who would love to volunteer, you can definitely reach out to us. We are always welcoming educators and people that want to just maybe explore the campus and learn about the initiatives or interact with our kids. We offer housing. There's cute little cottages where you can rent out the place for a couple of days if you're in India or in Pune specifically, and we just want to be surrounded by beautiful hills and things like that. And of course, for everybody else, we have programs that do take place at least 2 times a year. One of them is during spring break, and the other one is in the summer.
So our council members loves all things cultural, and as soon as the pandemic is behind us and it's safe to travel, we are going to go back to traveling around the world, and I hope many of you will join us. Cultural understanding is something that is woven into all of our tours, and I know that the foundation offers programs to broaden the cultural understanding, provide new perspectives, and also learn about sustainability. You've talked a little bit about how we participate. How do we participate maybe and support if we're not able to travel?
Indeed. So we're actually launching a new program that's where we're going to host an internship during spring break of 22, where junior and high school students will be invited to study STEM programs, specifically science, technology, engineering, math, who may be interested in pursuing careers in energy and learning about design thinking, how to problem solve, college degree coming in handy, as well as, learning about the alternative energy needs at the Vision International Learning Campus. So after spending several weeks online learning about the design thinking aspect, the energy climate crisis, and the students that attend Vision International Learning Center, students or volunteers will travel to India to meet our residential students tour the campus and begin coming up with alternative energy products, processes, and procedures that will enhance the school's operation. Students will be grouped into teams, and the foundation will actually underwrite an innovation grant. And it'll be a little contest where, you know, the winner and the winning prototype will be right fitted and implemented on our campus long term. So it's super exciting. And if you want to get involved as a partner or as an educator, please do reach out to us and, you know, contact us for more details. Of course, our website is PuranicFoundation.org, and you can have all our contact information there.
Well, Bhakti, it's been my pleasure to host you, to learn more about the Puranik Foundation, the Vision International Learning Center. I know all of the World Affairs Council members, teachers, and students are going to be really interested and engaged. Again, you can find out all of their information at PuranicFoundation.org, or reach out to the council and we can put you in touch with Bhakti. Thank you so much, Bhakti, for joining us today. And to everyone that watching, have a safe and healthy, happy weekend. Goodbye.
So much, Marianne. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.